discussion is everything we're doing is incredibly new in this world and incredibly old. And I'm going to end on a story that will highlight that. So, one of the things, I'm going to draw more circles, calm down. One of the things that I'm going to say is that the world is impermanent. What's the Dutch for impermanent? Sorry? Tijdelijk. Oh, yeah, temporary. Right? So that the world is temporary. So what I want to say is that as soon as we have something that exists, it's already going through a process of change. Nothing in this world remains the same. The only thing that is constant is change. Right? So what we're dealing with is a world that is moving faster than we've ever experienced before. Absolutely exciting and challenging. So one of the points that I want to put forward, one of the provocative things I want to say is create did that say impermanence? Title. Create things that are title. Create things that are temporary. Create things that are not permanent. For us to think that what we're creating is permanent is crazy. This world is changing faster than ever before. This is the first provocative statement that I want to make. Design things that don't last. Calm down. It's a beautiful story of an architect in America. And he was given the space to design a new university. Beautiful. So what he did was, he created a series of buildings. This is an overview. A series of buildings, and when he created this series of buildings, he said it was finished. And then the tutors and the students became very annoyed because he didn't put down any paths. He planted grass. And what happened? The students, the staff, the visitors started using the campus. And what happened was, paths were formed. And some paths were formed that he never thought about. And when these paths were formed, he then paved the path. He then made it permanent. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we need to design. None of the paths were straight. Please remember that for a story I'm going to tell you a little bit later on. None of the paths were straight. Wow. This means, ladies and gentlemen, when we design something, we need to do that. You see that? That is the magic. There's a form of therapy that's called Gestalt therapy, which is this idea of completing the whole. Everything is holistic. We're systems within systems, etc., etc. The second provocative statement I'm going to make is completeness. Incompleteness. What's in Dutch for incompleteness?
Onvolmaakt.
Complete. Incomplete. On-off. I'll help you with the language here, guys.
With an A and with an O.
Off. Whatever it is. We need this space. You've heard of Wikipedia. What the hell is Wikipedia? Wikipedia is this, and that is the content. This is YouTube, and that is the content. This is us creating a methodology to upgrade a country in 7 days. 7 days. 7 days. It's to upgrade. It's to upgrade the country in 7 days. That's a methodology. And guess what this is? These are other people filling it in. It is not you and I. These are other people. So the second provocative thing that I'm saying is create incompleteness. Things that are not finished. And I want to highlight this point just a little bit more. This is a concept that fascinates me. This is hydrogen, this is carbon, and this is oxygen. Any idea what they create?
Sugar.
Sorry?
Sugar.
Excellent. Who said that?
The chemist.
The chemist. Brilliant. At least you're confirming it. It's correct. This, ladies and gentlemen, is sugar. Is there sugar in hydrogen? Is there sugar in carbon? Is there sugar in oxygen? Huh? Try and explain this to a kid. I'd like to know your answer to later on. Where does it come from? This, ladies and gentlemen, is called an emergent quality. Something emerges from the combination. This, ladies and gentlemen, is called people, information, ideas. And something sweet comes from it. In science, when we talk about an ecology, we talk about a sweet spot in the ecology. That's when things are flowing, when things are working, when things are sweet. We're creating sweet spots, ladies and gentlemen. Sweet spots. By the way, I have a design company in Amsterdam. It's called Lava. And we were the ones that actually came up with this identity. And Martijn sat down with us one time and explained 7 days of inspiration. Well, what's that? Well, the concept is we've got different networks. And what we want to do is we want to bring those networks together. And then, of course, what happens is there's a spark when they come together. Emergent qualities is something that can only happen when we co-create. I can't do this. You can't do this. Only we can do this. And this is something that politicians, again, are aware of and just don't know what to do with it. I think there was a gentleman earlier on that said we should have more politicians next year in this room. Well, I don't know if we should have politicians, but we should definitely have policymakers. We should definitely have people who are stakeholders in our society. And unfortunately, some of those are politicians. Now, co-creation. Look at this, guys. This, well, these, as you can clearly see, are 2 people. Co-creation, ladies and gentlemen, is that sweet spot that we're creating. Do it yourself 8. Nice. I wonder if oh, excellent.
Stamina.
That was a word from our sponsors. Co-creation is what we're talking about. It is no longer, this used to be the world where you had an individual dictating to another individual. Top down. I am the expert. You're going to listen. Even the whole concept of every education is changing. Where it's no longer just somebody standing at the top. You do that for a limited period of time, and then guess what you do? You do workshops. You say, what did you learn? You say, what's your reflection? What feedback can you give? Beautiful. The future, ladies and gentlemen, is bright. Now here's one of my favorite stories. This is just beautiful. This, as you can clearly see, is a Japanese dog. And that's a tree in the Japanese garden. Tree, garden. Right. Now, this is a story that comes from a book that's called The Book of Tea, which was written in 1890 something. Wow. These are the books, by the way, we should be reading. Our books on how to use Wikipedia is something that we don't need to read that much because we're absorbing it. This is timeless. And we should always find a balance between timely and timeless. In this story, it's of a monk and a student set in Japan. And the monk is a student. The student comes up and says, "How can I help?" And the monk says, "Prepare the garden, we have visitors tomorrow. Make it perfect." So for the whole day, the student is working to take all the leaves out of the garden. For the whole day, he works really hard. And at the end of the day, he goes to the monk and he says, "Now it's perfect." And the monk looks at the garden and he says, "It's not perfect." "What do you mean?" "I've got rid of all the leaves." He says, "It's not perfect." And the monk walks over to the tree in the middle of the garden. He shakes the tree. A few leaves fall. And he says, "Now it's perfect." There's a few people nodding, and there's a few people with glazed looks in your eyes. Which there's a digestion period going on, I can see. Perfection, ladies and gentlemen, is never perfection. You know that? Perfection is never perfect. You meet your girl and you say to her, "I love you." She goes, "I love you." She says, "I love you back." And then you get to know her. And what do you fall in love with? You fall in love with her imperfections. Don't tell her that, by the way. You're perfect the way you are. Of course you're perfect. It is the imperfections in people that we relate to, that we fall in love with, that makes us human. I hinted at this just earlier on. Shouldn't be perfect, guys. So, create imperfection. Now, for those of you who are tutors, it's absolutely wonderful what you can do with students, and I teach a lot. And I teach this stuff, and then I give people assignments. What happens? They come back unfinished. Pretty bad. Not perfect. Wonderful. Absolutely. And the fact that they haven't considered how long it's going to last, so it's very, very, temporary. There's wisdom, timeless wisdom, in this approach. And this is not my approach. This approach comes from readings across many different cultures, particularly the Japanese culture. The Japanese culture has a concept that's called wabi-sabi. Wabi-sabi is the Japanese aesthetic. It is not minimalism, where we have a metal table, and in the center of the table, a square bowl. Wabi-sabi is a wooden table, slightly imperfect, with an old chipped bowl on the corner. Which one do you want to sit at? Beautiful. Calm down. So, look at this, guys. This is what nature gives us. Building blocks. And what we do is we then do this. And this is called civilization. We then put civilization into this. My question, what is the pattern? What is the pattern that we create when we take what's already existing from nature and we add civilization? My greatest design brief to anybody is, when we do this, whatever we create has to be beauty. How do we create beauty? Something shouldn't just be functional. Have you seen the design of the location we're standing in at the moment? Hook Catarine. Oh my God. Oh my God. The center point of Holland almost. Oh my God. Can we create functionality? Yes. Can we create functionality and beauty? Yes. Can we create functionality and beauty that is in alignment with nature? Absolutely. And not only is it an absolute, it's a necessity. And this is what excites me about 7 days of inspiration. We're reinventing. We're coming back and we're asking questions about how can we do this differently? How can we change? What can we do instead? This is now. This is called the past, and this is called the future, as you can clearly see. The past exists. So, we can analyze the past. Can we analyze the future? Can we?
No.
Why not? Because it doesn't exist. So what do we have to do with the future?
Make it.
Make,
Let it be.
design, create. Ladies and gentlemen, who is running our decisions on a governmental level? What training have they received? People. Mostly.
Analyze the past.
Analyzing the past, ladies and gentlemen, is what our leaders are experts in doing. Our world is here. Because guess what? The challenges we have in today's world, we never had before. So we can't analyze the past for a solution. We need to create possibilities. We need to design alternatives. 7 days of inspiration is this way of moving forward. Of saying we can create something different. We can create alternatives. And look at what we can do with just 7 days. So, this is an individual. I went to art academy. How did I get here?
He has a cast.
Yes, on 1 hour, yeah. Individuals. What can we do as an individual? We do this. What do you think that is? Reflection.
Yeah.
And before reflection? Action. Excellent. We should definitely reflect on putting a reflective action. This lady in the front row is the expert right now in this. What's your name? Daphna. Daphna is probably the best person in this room at the moment who knows how to do this. You understand why? This is our natural state. We play. We learn by doing. We need to be in a state of reflective action. Note, action comes first. Reflection. Then, we need to do this. And that's the spark of co-creation. As soon as we have reflective action, we now need to involve others. And now, we move to another level. And that's where you have individuals co-creating and other individuals co-creating. And what does this create? An ecology. This is what our government needs to do. Each one of us can do this. 7 days of inspiration is facilitating this. And 7 days of inspiration should be inspiring this. And our policymakers and stakeholders in society need to come back and support us in this level. Because look at this. Remember there was a star here? Sweet. What do you think could happen here?
Well,
Love, forgiveness, and I'd just like to thank God. Now, you guys already know this stuff. And I just want to finish on 2 stories. First story. There was a famous management book that was written in the 1970s by a guy called Tom Peters. Tom Peters became a management guru after this book, and the book was called In Search of Excellence. Right? Absolutely amazing book. You don't need to read it. Here's the summary. This is the most important thing he said in this book. Companies who were not excellent, did this. Companies who were not excellent did this. Companies who were excellent did this. What do you think this is? Trying?
Improvisation.
Daphne. She's the expert in this. They take an action, any action, reflect upon it, and start again. Refine it. Companies who are excellent do this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is learning by doing. We take an action, we reflect upon that action, and we focus again. This is the methodology of 7 days of inspiration. When we consider what could be done on a national level, upgrading a country, we can't make world peace unless everybody is involved. 7 days of inspiration are leading in this. Creating sweet spots between individuals, between networks. This is what we all do. What we all can leave here and continue to do. And if you need advice, Daphne will take calls later. This is the future. The future needs to be created. And whatever we're creating, ladies and gentlemen, please, please, please make it beautiful. Beauty is not a luxury. Whatever we create, it needs to be imperfect. Whatever we create needs to be incomplete. Whatever we create needs to be impermanent, temporary. And my final story, to help remind us that this is the journey we're on. That this is the focus point. That here is where we put our energy. The final story reminds us that everything I'm saying, everything that we are doing, is incredibly new and very old. This story comes from Oxford University, and it's told by an anthropologist called Gregory Bateson. Gregory Bateson is this amazing man that studied dolphins, then indigenous people, then psychiatric wards, then communication, and then everything. He tells this story. He says that in England you have Oxford University, and Oxford University is very old. And they have a university hall that's called Oxford University Hall. And it's very famous because Oxford University Hall, the roof is made out of oak beams. Oak beams. It's really old, solid wood. Now, Oxford University Hall is now 150 years old. After 150 years, the wood is facing some problems. It's got dry rot. So the faculty came together and they started analysing, well, what can we do about this? How can we replace these? And they discovered that to replace one oak beam would cost the equivalent of £100,000. The full length of the roof was one oak beam. So it's the equivalent of one oak